Hey everybody, welcome back to another week with the Trading Triangle. I'm here with my friends Sean and Kay. I'm your host Trader Nate, and we are live. Thanks for joining us, Sean. How you doing today?
Yeah, really good. Really excited. Went to London yesterday, had a little look around. So that's always nice. So yeah, but looking forward to trading week ahead.
London is one of my favorite places on earth. No joke. I love it there. I'm glad you had a good time. Kay, how about yourself? Did you go anywhere fun or you laying low like me?
Busy week,
Yeah.
but amazing to see you guys again, and looking forward to the next week.
Yeah, a lot going on. I think we're getting to a point where maybe all the bears are getting quiet. They don't want to get run over again, which I don't know. Sometimes that signals a market top. We'll see what happens. A lot of charts to get into, and we'll dive into all the details. First, quick disclaimer up front. Of course, we are not financial professionals. This is not financial advice. The Trading Triangle is here for your entertainment and education purposes only. And we do appreciate you guys subscribing and tuning in every week. We just like to share our trade ideas, get them out there, get some opinions. And then also at the end, make sure you guys stay tuned because we will be taking a lot of requests as we always do. So send in your ticker requests, reply either if you're tuned in on Wolf Financial live on X or at Trader Nate here on X, or if you're tuned in on YouTube at the Trading Triangle, be sure to subscribe again, smash that like button, and we will get right into these charts. All right, guys. So first up, as we always do, take a look at performance from last week. And, we got some selling to close the week, but that was after a pretty strong start and a lot of green here in big names too. Let's see, I like NVIDIA up this way, and I'm feeling that, we can pretty much just watch NVIDIA and dictate where the market's going to go these days. Any other names jumping off the list for you, Kay?
Yeah, mostly AMD, I would say. Shown some weakness throughout the week.
We got an
Um,
interesting chart on AMD too, so that's a
yeah,
good one.
exactly. I know somebody is covering AMD. Took my stock away, but okay. Um,
Ah,
no, that's good. I think Apple being flat was also very interesting.
oh yeah. Apple's trying to do something, but it has been struggling and not keeping up, as you can see clearly here. That's a good call. What about you, Sean?
Yeah,
Anything else?
just the financial sector kind of moved up nicely, didn't it? Bank of America, JP Morgan, I guess with the interest rates staying higher for longer makes sense. But just on Apple, obviously that did go up with the market, but it came back down alongside the sowing. That's a different kind of sowing, the sowing news. So yeah, that's not great. Tesla, I actually thought was down for the week, but that's actually up 4.7%, which is interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
I think middle of the week it went up and then went down again, and so this is an average of the week.
Yeah, I feel like that's the sentiment for most of the week. Honestly, you guys is like, oh yeah, I expected this to be down, and it's actually up pretty decently. So saw a lot of that. I feel like that's what this chart shows, and we're still, healthily in the greed part of the fear and greed index, right? Not an extreme greed, but not kicking back in anywhere near fear. And look at those positive numbers for the week. I mean, small caps back at 205. I feel like we keep talking about IWM either at 200 or 205 and it just needs to break out, and it just hasn't done it yet. But keep an eye on it. And but yeah, everything across the board, really nice week. Bitcoin, the only thing that kind of pulled back, but it has been absolutely on fire. So kind of expect it. And then check out the VIX. What do you make of that, Kay? Almost to a 12 handle.
Exactly. I think, but what I would say is something like very interesting. From the last 4 weeks or 5 weeks, our put to call ratio is slowly creeping up. It was zero point 0.7, 0.72, 0.74.
Interesting.
Yeah. So now it has touched zero point 0.8. So nothing is changing at this point in time. But I think if it starts creeping up to 0.9, 0.95 in the coming weeks or so, that will also start to showcase their little bit of a bearishness in the sentiment. Again, this is sentiment. So.
Right. So creeping, but not quite there. Definitely no sharp moves or anything like that we're seeing. Hence the VIX, right?
As the VIX.
Yeah, Sean, you still feeling greedy here?
Oh, absolutely, especially with the price action midweek as well, bouncing off of those kind of trend lines, moving averages, etc. It's still in the trend, so yeah, why not?
Yeah, I like it. I like it. No sense in fighting the trend. I will say earnings this week does not do anything for me. Like,
No, it doesn't.
I mean, I do have one name, Carnival Cruise Lines, middle of the week that I got a chart on, but that's the only one. You guys feeling any different? Sean, you
No,
trading?
same as maybe Rumble. I'm trying to look into Rumble, but nothing pops up actually this week.
Yeah, nothing for K. How about you, Sean?
No, nothing for me. Moving
Nah.
on.
Yeah, moving along. All right, sounds good. We gotta get to these charts. This is the interesting stuff. So again, stay tuned to the end, you guys, and bring in those ticker requests. Drop them in the chat. Send us DMs, whatever works, and we'll get to them ASAP. But yeah, getting to these charts. First up, as always, we've got SPY. So taking a look at this, looks a little bearish, right? Like I'm not trying to be bearish here, but I will say that SPY has kind of three options in my mind here. So that's why I mapped it out. Either we retest the trend line, which is like the 20-day moving average, and continue higher, or we finally see a little bit of a rolling over with a lower high formed and then start making some lower lows. And the two spots I'd be watching if we did see that happen would be this gap fill, which gets down to it's below 500, but still above 495. So there's a nice gap there that we had back in February to fill up. And then if we get below that, and also the 50-day moving average, that's what I want to note, is right in that gap zone as well, right? So that might be a good place to bounce. But also, if you move all the way down to support at 471, 472 in that range, that would be where we get a nice spike, little volume shelf, and maybe we get pullback all the way down to that zone. Neither of these are terrible. I think that big drop is about 10%. What are your thoughts on this, Sean?
So you mentioned about the kind of pullbacks and concentration about kind of where it might go, but I actually see it kind of doing the opposite and kind of continuing on this momentum in kind of
Keep
a
it
bullish
going.
fashion. Yeah, I mean, exactly right. So kind of a pullback to that kind of 518 level, which is that kind of, I think, fib level that you've drawn there. Maybe pulling back there in the next few days. We'll probably get a few kind of flashish days. Lots of news has been out recently. Maybe just kind of chill out a bit. People taking profits, of course, and then just make another move higher, and then kind of moving on to kind of, dare I say it, kind of 530, 540. But we will get a pullback at some point. It generally happens once a year on average. 5 to 10% is the kind of average, of course. So, in my opinion, it will happen, but we'll need, for me, the next catalyst will be CPI next month, because obviously we've had two kind of hottish months the last 2 months. So
Right.
if that trend continues, then that will be in air quotes, bad for the market. But yeah, if it comes in good, then yeah, we go to the moon, I guess. But yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, it's very interesting spot yet again. What do you think, Kay?
I think the options data show something different, right? For expiration 328, we have 1.9 million put options versus only 345,000 call options. So your put to call ratio is 5.68%. Sorry, 5.68.
That's interesting. So getting a little bit of hedging maybe going on. And, again, I feel like we've said this quite a bit, and you can see it in the chart, right? A little bit of a pullback. People start to maybe get a little bit hesitant. Like, is this finally going to break the trend? And then we get a bounce. And that's kind of what I meant by the top of the hour. It's like, even at the end of the week, you can see these candles selling off, and I don't think bears got too loud about it just yet, right? So,
And I did post on my Twitter feed, I posted yesterday, there was a report from Goldman Sachs. I think they're still targeting 520 or 5,200 level for SPY for end of the year. So, I mean, we are almost at the 5,200 level if you think about it, right? From on the S&P 500 is 5,012, but it's 518 right now, right? Yeah, 21. Yeah, exactly.
well, let's keep it going here and see. I mean, we've got relative strength still in a decent spot, but I will note it is that we mentioned RSI divergence, and that is what we're seeing. RSI is the peaks are declining as we march higher, so that will eventually roll over if we do decide to roll over the markets in general. But QQQ a little bit different. I kind of see a range. By the way, welcome back, Qs. This is a 4-hour chart. We were looking at SMH for a couple weeks there. I feel like we were, missing our friend the Qs. So the 4 hours here is starting to show a little bit of a sideways move. I'm not sure if this is an exact channel, but what I've got is 434.75 at the bottom and 446.58. So we'll call 446.50 at the top. And it looks like we're going to maybe bounce off that top and come back down. If it does reject here to start the week and then starts heading back down to that 434.75 line area, that to me would be pretty strong signal that, yeah, we might continue just churn sideways here. Is that optimistic, too optimistic, or am I not bullish enough here? What do you think?
I think you're plenty bullish. Yeah, sure.
All right.
Well, I think with obviously QQQ, they kind of move a little bit more, erratically compared to the SPY. It kind of ties on what I just said with the SPY, kind of coming back down to those moving averages, that kind of level you said about 440-ish, yeah, that kind of level, and then make another move higher, and that's the trend. You've got to ride the trend until we break those moving averages, and especially that kind of volume profile around 434, as you can see there. Until that happens, I think, it's still just trickling up. Yeah.
Agreed. What do you think, Kay?
Similar sentiment on the put to call. A little bit less on this one. It's 2.8 this time. So about 567K put option versus 202 call option. So
Yeah, it makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah. So 434.75. Next level down of support I've got is 423.18. If we can get above 446.58, 447, we can keep this thing rolling. All right, that was the 4 hours. Now I'm going to hand it over to Sean. We've got a daily chart for AMD. What do we got, Sean?
But before we do that, we had a comment around Tesla, and I know you recently released a newsletter around Tesla. Did you want to talk to Tesla a little bit while we're here?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I dropped in my newsletter today, actually, trade idea for Tesla. There's a very distinct trading level, and I can pull that up here. Actually, let's do that, Sean. We'll pull it up at the end of the charts. So stay tuned. We'll get to Tesla for sure. And I also see some other requests. I'll start noting those down. Thanks for dropping those in, guys. I see Snow, Marvell. We've got charts for already. Meta, Carvana. So while you get into AMD, I'll take these notes, and then, yeah, we'll definitely get into Tesla. That's good.
Cool, sweet. So AMD, this is a bit of a different one for me. Yep, sorry, Kay, I took it right out of your hands. But there's only one reason, though, and that's because I see confluence. I see 3 levels of confluence. I see the 50 moving average, which is that kind of pink line coming through the screen, the squiggly one. You've got the trend line, obviously meeting the bottoms. That goes back to October, I think, last year. So that's quite a solid trend line, you might say. And obviously the support resistance level of 179, which we're kind of sitting on now. We did have a bit of a scare on Wednesday, obviously that lower candle, but we got that bought right back up, that kind of red bottoming tail candle. And obviously on Friday as well, we did start the day very, very red, and then it kind of came back throughout the day, showing that the buyers are still kind of there. Not the most full candle I would like to see, but it's still kind of thereabouts with those kind of 3 confluential levels. I have started to position at 180, nice round number. We all like that.
All right.
And I'm just going to see how it goes for the next couple of days. If it triggers, obviously you can see my stop loss there at 171. I've given it a little bit more space just because you can see the recent lows and then the recent lows before that back in kind of late February-ish. So I'm getting a little bit more space there. But obviously moving on from that, you can see the targets. I've got 192. I'll take probably half, maybe 2/3. And then I'll take a little bit more at 202 if it was to play out, of course. And then just let the rest run, see where it goes. So that's kind of my trade idea, I guess, around AMD. I don't know what your thoughts are with this kind of confluential look at things. I don't know if that's a word, but I've made it a word.
I really like your game plan here, but I'm gonna hand it to Kay first because this is definitely more Kay's.
No, so I think for
Kay's territory.
I like your level, but I think what I'll do is I'll hedge a little bit more on AMD. I'm looking at 170 because that's where the majority of the volume shelf sits. It's 938 million average volume traded at that level. So that would be my first entry point. So I'm not touching the stock until it hits that level, unless we see a complete bounce back and going to the 200 level. But I would want to be a little bit careful on AMD. And then if that breaks, then my next level would be 160 to enter the position. So that's my entry criteria for AMD. On the option side, though, I think it's related to what you're saying, Sean. We have a lot of bullishness on AMD. It's 0.64 put to call. So you have 108,000 call options versus 68,000 put options. So definitely there's a lot more positive sentiment on AMD as opposed to what we have seen in SPY and QQQ.
Yeah, I like the technical setup personally. Real quick shout out to Queen of All Trades. Love all the comments out there. Thank you, guys. Thank you for that. Thank you for your support. And the bounce here, right off of this level that used to be resistance. I mean, I'm seeing exactly with you guys. So waiting for 170, I think you would get obviously a better entry, but you might catch like the shakeout before the pop higher. So that would be quite optimal. But yeah, you might not get that. And getting in here at this level, I mean, makes a lot of sense given that that was prior resistance. So this is basically the SR flip that I look for, similar to what I'll talk about with Tesla. So yeah, we'll get to that chart too. But this is good. This is a nice setup, and I appreciate your game plan, Sean, for sharing that.
I see a comment from Trader AZ. He says there is a bad news on AMD in the weekend China restriction.
Oh, interesting.
Let's see.
Oh, that sounds great for me, doesn't it?
All right, we'll have to check that out.
Who
But
knows?
I was about to say to your guys' points, you could always have this level as like a starter position, and then kind of add on the way down as like a slightly swinger.
Dude,
Judging by your face, this is not good.
China said to block use of Intel AMD chip in government computers.
Interesting. Well, there's going to be a lot of headlines, I think, coming in with respect to semiconductors and China for sure. I mean, by way of NVIDIA and AMD. So that is interesting. Definitely keep your eye on that. Sean, this is why we scale in. And weren't you talking about that? Scaling in, right? And then scaling out. So, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes.
The chart looks good. Yeah.
Trader AZ, by the way.
Maybe.
I shout out to Trader AZ. I always support and appreciate that support. All right, should we keep it going? Ooh, soda.
So this is one I brought up every now and then, kind of tech stock around. They make kind of hardware around sound, basically, and they're just bringing out some headphones apparently as well. Recent news. But the reason I brought this up is just the technical setup of a trendline breakout, which I do like to trade every now and then. So we've got, the last kind of 3 out of the last 4 candles have been very, very bullish. Nice bounce off that 1750 level. If you got in then, you're doing really, really well. Excuse me. And then we moved up to kind of the top of the range and obviously closed just above it. And at this point, I'm kind of looking for a bit of a pullback. I actually posted it on X as well a few days ago, not expecting like a little bit of a pullback before we see a move higher. We're seeing that kind of play out now. And essentially, my entry is kind of here. I haven't entered this trade yet. I'll obviously keep it on the side, but you can see a couple of points of confluence, which again, it's kind of my favorite word in trading, I guess. And Nate, obviously, you put me up to that kind of word, so thank you very much for that.
Good word.
It is. So we've got obviously. I wish I actually put a bit of a resistance line in there as well. So we've got that kind of support resistance again where we are now ish. We've got the volume profile and obviously the trend line as I mentioned as well. So kind of 3 points of confluence. I would expect maybe a little bit of a move up to kind of 2150. That is the next serious resistance. So obviously I don't have it on the chart here because you won't be able to see it. But go ahead and jump into your own chart, have a look at Sonos and come up with your own ideas. So yeah, that's kind of the nuts and crux of it, really. That's kind of what I've thought around Sonos. A nice, easy, simple, quick one, I guess.
Yeah.
Not easy.
Ticker SONO made my watch list. And this is a nice clean breakout of the beginning, I should say. It's not fully complete, right? Is that what you'd say, Sean? Are you waiting for another candle to complete to the upside above this trend line break?
Not necessarily, actually. No, I would enter here because that's kind of where you expect it to pull back to and then make a move higher. But what I will do is probably wait 30 minutes to an hour, see what happens Monday morning, depending on what news has come out over the weekend, of course, and then enter the trade just because of that kind of high volatile section. You could also actually wait to the 20 moving average if it was to kind of pull down back down to there. That would be an ideal entry, I guess. Anyway, I'll let you talk now.
Nice. No, that's great. You answered my question. I was curious what your thoughts were as far as entry. And no, that's great because sometimes I'll wait, right, for that next candle to close higher. When I do that, my stop loss is effectively that trend line. If we get back to it, then, I'm out. But in this case, you would be entering maybe right on or even below it, as long as it's showing some strength and looks like it's pushing back higher. And then what you would use maybe the moving average there as a stop loss, or is that what you would look at?
Yeah, so I've gone a little bit bigger again just because of that kind of Wednesday's wick and the volume profile you've got on the right around that kind of 1850 level. So I've just come a bit below that. But obviously, if you were kind of a bit less risk tolerant, I guess you could bring that up just underneath the 20 moving average, and that's absolutely fine, of course.
Okay, yeah. No, I missed that, but I see it here, and that's great. So, I think that just ties into risk tolerance, right? Where you want to step in and then set your stops at. Sorry, Kay, I took up all the airspace there.
No, that's okay. This is not the options play that I generally like. It's a monthly option, so not much going on over here.
All right, let's keep it going. Where do we find you, Sean?
Yeah, so obviously on X, I post pretty much daily around kind of chart ideas, my perspectives, etc. I'm also doing a few spaces here and there as well, so you can catch me talking live on a few of those as well. YouTube, I've been a bit slow recently, I must admit, but I'm looking to get back into that. I've got an educational based video coming out today alongside bull and bear flags. So if you're not quite sure what's going on with those two, then obviously watch that video. Yeah, and that's it really. I don't really do newsletter too much anymore, which is a bit of a shame, but maybe I'll get back into that in the next couple of months or so. But yeah, that's it from me. I'll hand over to you, Nate.
You've been a busy guy, man. I like it. All right. Make sure you give Sean a follow at Sean Clark on X. He's great follow and always great content. Looking forward to more this week. And I am also looking forward to trading Marathon Digital again, potentially this week. We got to see. It keeps giving me reason to pause. It's driving me a little crazy, to be honest with you. Kay, I don't know if you're still in Marathon, but
Still in, Nate, because the
nice.
rolling options is really giving good premium. So I told you last week that my cost basis is down to $16 now. So if I
Yep.
got a sign from 20 minutes down to $16, that much premium we have made.
I mean, you just bringing in cash and dropping the cost basis basically every week. It sounds like,
Exactly.
which is great. I mean, that's why we talk about using these different strategies with options. So selling cash secured puts or selling covered calls. I mean, just a great way to do it. And I'm looking to get back in for an upside trade. You can see here this anchor volume weighted average price. Shout out to Alpha Trends and Brian Shannon. So anchor VWAP here came up. We've got support multiple times and then got a big bounce last week. A little bit of a pullback, and I'm looking for 2052 to hold up. If we can get, or I'm sorry, 2032, excuse me. Basically, if $20 can hold here and then we get a bounce off of it to start moving higher again, form that higher low, I think this thing could run, get moving back again, right back up to the 35 area, try to form yet another higher high and keep this trend moving. Bitcoin will determine a lot of that, but we didn't see much of participation with the recent Bitcoin rally. So I think if we see Bitcoin and crypto start to move again, maybe these miners say, okay, it's time to catch back up and really get popping again. I would take profits, at these levels that I've got noted here. So at 29.54 and 33.59, like absolutely taking profits because of how quickly this can reverse. But yeah, keep an eye. Kay, I'm glad to hear you're still making money with Marathon.
Yeah, and interestingly, I think there's another one called Riot, RIOT.
Yep.
Right? I think that is also giving very good premiums as well. So if you are into the Bitcoin miners, I guess these are the couple of tickers. But I would stick with Mara personally because
It's working.
It's working, yeah. So don't fail.
Have you gotten in these, Sean?
No, I haven't, but I do like the chart. It's kind of I know obviously past performance is not an indication of future performance, et cetera, et cetera. But if you look at the pattern from kind of end of November, maybe middle of December, so that kind of up, down a little bit, up again, and then down. That exact same thing happened again recently in February, basically February. I don't know if you just spoke to this, but I'm not too sure if you did. But you can kind of see it kind of happening again. So that little section in between the whole of January, really, that kind of little bit of a bump and then a huge move higher. We could be in that little bit of a bump now. So maybe a bit of a pullback to kind of 2019, that kind of level, and then a huge move higher. So that would be amazing if that does happen. But yeah, just a little bit of kind of pattern identification, I guess. Yeah,
history rhyming. Yeah, I totally agree. I this is what I'm looking for, is that little bit of pullback and bounce forming the higher low. And that's exactly what happened the last few times. I didn't even note that. So yeah, completely agree. That's what we're looking for. And notice it's forming a little higher each time, right? Stair stepping up. So I think positive overall. So we'll see what happens with Marathon. Good stuff, guys. All right, keeping it going. We've got CCL, Carnival Cruise Line. I like to sneak trades in here with Carnival Cruise Line. Everybody kind of gives me funny looks when I do. I think it's because we're used to trading tech stocks, and Carnival probably has a bad name as like, meme stockish, penny stockish, but it's trading pretty nicely here, trying to form a bit of a cup and handle. I mean, that cup has got a V shape. It's going to tip right over, but if it held a higher low, right, and now it's marching its way, trying to get back to 19, which would be quite the resistance point to get through. We've got earnings this week, so I'm looking for either a pullback to 1650 and hold, and try to get a bounce there, which would also have that 20-day moving average holding yet again. We've moved above it, and it looks like every time we get above the 20-day, this chart starts to continue moving higher. So if that pattern continues and we get that hold and earnings doesn't, decimate, they don't do anything terrible with earnings, I think this thing can continue to run. It's risky, but ahead of earnings, I mean, if they guide with strength and they have a good report, it could pop to 19. It might be a decent risk reward trade if you're into trading around earnings. So that's my thoughts here. What do you think, Sean? Is this one that interests you at all as far as the technical setup?
It does, yeah. And on a bit more of a bigger time frame as well. So generally, when you look at kind of breakout trades, I'm looking for this for a breakout trade. So probably been a bit more patient, sitting on it for about a month or so, trading wise. Obviously, here, thereabouts. But you can kind of see the big kind of triangle at the beginning on the left side of the screen. Again, straight back up to 9, and then it came back down and set a higher low around that kind of 1440 level, which is ideal. Obviously, is what you want to see heading into a breakout trade. So if you can just kind of stay a step up, like you said, up to like 19 level, and that's when my attention will kind of really come into it. I probably won't trade it in these levels just because, like you say, earnings around the corner, anything can happen. But depending on the results, it could be nice to kind of potentially get in early or start a position early. I know it's not, it's not always frowned upon. Not always, it's quite frowned upon. But yeah, if you can get in early, and if it's good earnings, and of course the company theoretically should continue moving upwards. But yeah, that 19 level is one for me for a breakout level.
As an example, if you want to put a $500 trade on, you might put 100 on ahead of earnings, right? And then after earnings, if it's gone your way, scale in at pullbacks for a continued upside. That's a potential trade. I'm not saying that's what I would necessarily do or what will happen, but that's a way to get that higher risk trade in, but not fully deploy all your capital, right? And still be able to trade it.
100%. And I think a lot of times, I guess we as humans, we confuse that there are many plays you're going to do throughout your week. So this is not the only play, right? And let's say if you have $1,000 to play with, you're not going to deploy $1,000 on just one trade itself.
Yeah, I mean, that's a high conviction trade if you are. That's for sure.
I won't touch TCL for that for sure.
You got to be careful.
I just want to touch to the other side of that. Of course, if you had that starter position and earnings bombed and it didn't look so good, would you be looking to cut that position, get rid of it emotionally, move on, or would you hold on to it, basically? I mean, I would hope it would be the first one, but you never know.
I would definitely set my stop losses. You got to be robotic about these things. And I find that anytime I'm like, well, I'm going to adjust my stop loss a little lower and give myself some extra room, all I'm doing is increasing my losses. Like, that's all I've ever had. It rarely does it give me the right room. And, oh, look, I got all this upside because I missed the dip there. Like, nah, usually your stop loss is right because you did all the work up front. So if this broke, like for me, I'd be trying to hold 1650, and I might give it, if the 20-day moving average is still a little bit below that, might give it to that level, and that would be it. Like once it broke the 20-day again, I'm out. I'm going to see if it recovers before I would get back in. If it recovers, great, and I miss it, so be it. But yeah, you got to be disciplined, I think.
And UK?
I would basically be having, if you're doing options and you have a put or, call credit spreads in this one, it basically, you'll be pretty much, done with that. That's why I'll have a trading stop loss. I use a trading stop loss to get out of trade. So sometimes, it just triggers and then you have a bounce and you feel bad about it. But I think I have saved a lot more dollars by getting out of trades rather than just sticking with it for long term.
That's smart. That's a good point.
Good stuff. Well, we'll see what happens with Carnival Cruise Line. CCL is the ticker. And yep, you'll hear me bring it up from time to time. I don't know. It's treated me well, so I can't help it, right? We got a nice uptrend here, so let's keep that going. And I will be
in the last 4 quarters, so who knows?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, the trend for getting on these cruises that people are not stopping, and if they're kicking the can down the road with respect to their debt and just be able to refinance, and it's not great when you have these rates higher, but when we're expecting rate cuts, I mean, things might be just fine. So I'll write more about it. You guys can check all that out at A Trader's Education, which is my newsletter I post daily on Substack. I'm also branching out to put that on Beehive, by the way, which is where I write for Wolf Financial every Sunday. So you can check those posts out. And then at Trader Nate here on X, all week long. Appreciate all the support out there, you guys. And then, what I don't have listed here is our channel, The Trading Triangle. And so if you haven't already, subscribe on YouTube. Lots of great stuff all week long. But next up, we've got Kay. What's up? SoFi this week. I like it, Kay.
SoFi. So the reason I love this stock is because of the range. $7. I've been saying this for a while now, and a few weeks ago, $7 is a very, very crucial range for SoFi. So if you're doing short-term trading, I think $7 is whenever it drips below $7, that is where you should be getting in. And basically, if you want to get out, you can get out, with a 20-30 cents profit. So I have multiple options play at these $7 level. Generally you can notice that there is a strong support at these levels. The RSI currently is also at 43, so there's a lot of room for the stock to run. But I do see that there is going to be a resistance at the 20 and the 50-day SMA. But there is a lot of room for us to run from 7 to all the way to the resistance level at these. The only thing you have to be careful that the volumes have really dipped in the last couple of days. I mean, it's flattened out, and then in the last Friday there was like literally no volume on SoFi. So I don't know why that's the case, but generally with earnings things start to stabilize until preparing for the next big move up or down based on the earning that comes up. So I still like SoFi at these levels. I still have trades open for the $7 level because I'm selling options. So $7 levels for a good 2 month to 3 month out. That will gives you enough premium and also lets you allow you to adjust your trades accordingly. So yeah, what do you guys think about the SoFi level? I know Sean was frustrated a couple of weeks ago with SoFi as a ticker, but what do you think, Sean? Let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, it still remains to be a long-term play for me. And again, I agree. These levels are very, very appealing. And I've kind of been trickling a few ads here and there over the last couple of weeks. Nice candle on Wednesday. I guess that was a reaction to CPI. That must be around that kind of thing. But yeah, I've just been frustrated that it just hasn't made the move. But then that kind of does couple in with the fact that it does give you more opportunity to kind of, accumulate your shares, at least from a long-term perspective. So I don't really trade this one much, generally from a day-to-day basis. But yeah, I'm excited for the future prospects of this company, that's for sure. That's all I've got to really say, to be honest. Okay, sorry.
I like SoFi. I gotta tell you, you guys follow the handle Steve Urkel on X. He trades SoFi well, I'll say, and I think he agrees with you here, Kay. I have to go back and look at his post, but I love the handle too. It's so funny. But yeah, these are the levels to be if you're going to be a SoFi bull, get in and try to trade for some upside. You can see when it starts moving, you get a nice trend. I mean, as far as day trading, you can make some really nice money trading SoFi. So I know also, I think you're a longer term bull on it as well. And these are some levels to be buying at, I would say, if you've got that bull thesis for sure. I'm looking at this 730 level, and if it holds there, yeah, I would like that to get in. If it dips down to that 686, a little bit below 7, I understand adding there. It would just be a little bit more nervous about it because like we've already had the dip. I wouldn't like necessarily retesting it, but yeah, a move and a hold here at 730 and moving up, that could start another trend. So far it's looking interesting again.
So a couple trade ideas on this one, right? So if it dips to the 680 level, it breaks the $7, and especially on those down days, you can get into the leap calls.
Interesting.
For maybe a year, 2 year out. So those leap calls becomes cheaper back then. And then basically what you do is when you have that massive run again, those leap calls will start printing, and then you basically get out of those leap calls. So you can free up that cash. Other things, when it falls to those levels, you open up at those critical levels, the CSPs. Now, of course, you'll do it in volume, right? So to really collect those premiums, it goes above that 730 level. You sell, close those out with a nice chunk of 50-60% profit. So that's how I trade SoFi in this range. So I'm not really tracking the breakout, but I'm basically utilizing this range and collecting those little by little, 0.5%, 2%, 5% like that, weekly or bi-weekly.
Nice. I like it. All right, what else do you have this week, Kay?
Oh, I have Marvell. I think
it's a favorite of mine.
This was your stock, right? So you
introduced
this one. And I was just looking at a lot of semiconductor stocks, and because this is back into the $60 range, I was like, let's take a look what's going on.
Look at that trend line, Kay. I didn't see that trend line on my chart.
Yeah,
Sorry to interrupt. You got me
no, no, no,
excited.
no, no. Absolutely, this is good because I'm starting to see that the volume shelf is at a higher level. Like, you have about the volume shelf is around like $70 or so, 71. It's hard to see over here, but and then if we draw this trend line, we are seeing that the stock is currently at the bottom, getting closer to the bottom of the trend line. And I want to see if we can get a bounce from here. If we don't see a bounce, then we could see a breakdown. But if we see a bounce from here, my target would be from the bottom of the trend line to the 50-day moving average, which is 69.53. And that's where and then if it can break that, then you are getting into that major volume shelf area where majority of the buying, and then we could have a breakout trade at this level. 50 will remain as a resistance, at least for now. We can see it got rejected few times before, one, two, three, four times, I see. And then the volume after the earnings, pretty much, generally you get a pop and the volume then stabilizes. RSI has enough room to run. So this is looking like a good setup, not for day trade, but more like a swing trade on Marvel.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree. It's a bit broadening. Like if you go and just start in February, I guess, yeah, it looks like January, February timeframe, and drew the downtrend at the bottom end of that. You're creating that like broadening pattern,
Yeah.
which we're at the bottom of and looking for a bounce to move higher, which is also in line with this trend line that you drew. So I think that it's a decent point to try to get in for a move back to the, where was it at before, all the way up to almost 86. So yeah, that would be really nice to see. I think it's a decent risk reward, and then I would keep my stops pretty tight. But is that the 50? I always that's a 200 moving average right
200
there. Right?
moving average. Yeah, that is
Very interesting.
$50.15.
Yeah, super interesting that we're right there, right? Like looking for a bounce. Sean, we were talking about 200 moving average last week, I think.
Yeah,
just trading around it, right? And how important it is to trade around that level.
Yes,
absolutely. Yeah, it's the kind of last resort, isn't it?
And to add to that, if you are looking into that trade from more selling option standpoint, the premiums are massive. So at a 66 level, you're getting $3.15 per share. That's a lot of cash you're getting from a premium standpoint.
Yeah, this one always has juicy premiums, I will say. That is for sure. So trading premium or trading options for the upside, you got to pick your spots carefully, because it can be costly. But yeah, collecting that cash, like definitely another good one. Not surprised this is when you're trading, Kay. Not at all. Good stuff.
So for me on this one, if I may say a little piece here, so on the smaller kind of view of things, I guess short term, the last 7 candles, I think, look like they're forming like a little bit of a head and shoulders in a smaller fashion. So kind of a little bit dip down, a little bit of a peak up, a little bit of a dip down, back up, and then kind of forming that base now, maybe slightly lower, about 66. And then I'd be looking for it to kind of break the previous red candle. I know this is probably not the best description, but you can kind of see what I'm talking about in terms of inverted head and shoulders. And then I'm looking at a target of 72. So just above the 20 moving average, just a bit of resistance there as well.
Yeah.
Which is actually, it's a decent return. So it's about 10%, maybe slightly less, just by looking at the chart. So that's kind of what I'm looking at on the smaller time frame. I've written it down in my notes here. So I'd probably dive down into the hourly, get a bit more detail in terms of where I want to enter, where I want to exit. But yeah, I like this for a shorter term. And I completely agree with you guys in terms of the longer term as well. It's quite an exciting stock, I think, shaping up nicely.
But you will wait for the confirmation before you get into the trade, right? You will want to see that either we see an uptrend from here or we see a bounce from the downtrend line.
Literally just playing off the head and shoulders from where we are now. So I'd probably enter at the kind of 60, I don't know where it is, but maybe 65.
64, that's the current price level.
That's the current price. Yeah, so a little bit lower than that. And if it did bounce off of there, then we'll go from there. But again, I have to dive into kind of probably the 15-minute, 30-minute candles. This is how short term I'm thinking, possibly within just a few days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. I really like Marvell for the long term too, Kay. This is one that's squarely at the top of my watch list. So Thanks for bringing it forward this week.
Yeah.
And,
all right, so you can find me on X as well, and I actually have a tech sector ETF review that I just posted yesterday on my YouTube channel. So if you're interested in tech, if you're interested in tech sector, definitely check that out. And then I do write Substack. I'm not as regular like Nate, so eventually I'll get back to it at some point. So yeah.
Nice. Good stuff, Kay. And yeah, make sure you guys are following at InvestK and at Sean Clark _ on X. I got it this time. And also at Trader Nate here on X. We will be lining your timelines with tons of good content, almost all around the stock market. But, I like to throw in a little. I got a picture of our desert tortoise coming out of hibernation yesterday. A little bit of something for everybody. But this is the time of the show where we get to the ticker requests from the audience. I've got a list going here about 6 names that we can definitely go through. I got Coca-Cola, Tesla, Snow, a couple others. So roll those in, you guys. Let us know what tickers you want us to go through, and I'll start pulling those up right now. And also, make sure you're subscribed to the Trading Triangle over on YouTube. We're trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers. Do appreciate your support over there. Smash the like button, get the word out. We are up to almost 2,000 live this week across the different live streams, so that's awesome. Appreciate you, because we know we've got some madness to compete with, so there's that. And let's get to these tickers. All right.
What are we starting off with, Nate? Snow?
Let's go with Tesla. Sean mentioned that at the top, and why not? Let's look at Tesla. So I mentioned there's a key level to pay attention to here, and this is what I'm talking about. So we came down
just before you start, can you do that thing where you zoom in again?
Oh, yes. So Let's see here.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, I appreciate you asking. Is this a little bit better?
Yeah, awesome. Yeah.
All right, good stuff. Thank you for that reminder, by the way. I don't want to be putting little tiny candles that nobody can see on the screen. Okay, so we've got 182.63. This is the level, right? We've got a little bit of a volume shelf here. This is where we first came down and bounced, tried to drop lower, and immediately recovered above and retested. So that's what this little area back here in early January, February did, right at that 182.63. Tried to move higher and then had the bad news. It got us to break below, right? And you can see the retest and then drop down. So stopped at 160.51. Now we're pushing back up. So my whole thought process here is at 182.63, we're going to either reject or we'll break above it, retest it, and start powering back higher. We've got this is our 50-day moving average, I believe, and this is our 20-day coming down. So we'll have to break above those. But that's what I'm thinking. And I wrote about this in the newsletter today at Traders Education. There's a link in my bio if you're interested. Also links on the Trading Triangle on YouTube. And there's some interesting information there for you on Tesla. And then also if you want to upgrade for the $8 a month, I've got all my trading ideas, options, contracts, all that stuff I'm considering. I drop trades throughout the week, like Kay said. So that's my thoughts here on Tesla. Sean, what do you think? Is this a decent level to trade around?
Oh, definitely, yeah. It's always a decent level to trade around Tesla, isn't it? Let's be honest.
There's always one. Yeah.
But you can see there might be a little bit of a bear flag forming. So kind of that kind of from 200, where the drop down to kind of 160, that's obviously kind of your flagpole.
Yeah.
Range that we're kind of trading in kind of upwards fashion, at least so far. Could be obviously the flag part, and then whether we get a break downwards or not to complete the bear flag system, then that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking for in terms of I guess more of a swing trading look at things. So yeah, essentially what you're drawing there, but perhaps
it's kind of like what we've got up here, right? Is you're saying we could have a similar thing kind of
exactly
happening, right?
And it kind of plays into what you were saying as well, probably maybe a bit more of a long-term thing. I think that trend line you've got coming down is quite steep. I don't know if that's just because of the display of the candles that we can see, but it's very, very steep trend line. Oh no, there you go. That's how you flatten it out, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you look at it like that, then the bear flag is definitely on, isn't it?
It does look like it, right? It would be right at that resistance point on the trend line, as well as the 182.63 level I talk about. We could reverse and then break that flag and see lower lows. So I know there's a lot of Tesla bulls out there. We don't want to see that, but it's possible. It's on the table, right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, did you mention Snow? Should we jump to Snow next?
Yeah, we can do Snow.
Let's do it. I guess I left this note on here. That is rough. Do you have any initial thoughts? I mean, that was a really tough earnings call. If you guys don't know about it, right? They announced, I think the CEO stepped down as the CEO.
yeah, the CEO stepped out, and then they actually have a new CEO, Sridhar, and I think now the company is looking to, I guess, stabilize after
Right.
that news. But if you think Snow as a long term position, I think this drop should actually excite you, because generally, we have seen Snow can run, and when it runs, it can go to some very high levels.
Yep.
So personally, I mentioned to you, I did a pre-earnings play on this one. I was being very conservative. I started opening a position at 140 for the CSP. So that is in negative right now, by the way. Even though the price is at 159, my position is down. But I think I have enough time, and as long as it stays above 140, I will be able to collect the 100% premium. But I'm happy to collect the premium while adding Snow at lower than 140 for a long term position. So this is more of getting into the stock for a long term position for me.
Yep. I like that thesis overall. Sean, I highlighted that even though we had this big drop in sell off, that we've got a higher low technically from what our recent low for Snow back in October, and that to me is positive. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a positive sign in terms of the kind of the higher low. I don't know if you can add the 200 moving average. I think that's coming in very nicely underneath as well.
175.90.
So that's kind of a level that I'm watching as well, actually, to even start a position
Interesting.
in Snow. Because I'm not in it. I'm not in Snow. To be honest, I don't know much, hugely amount about the company. KM had to ask you a few questions about them.
You can
But
actually
yeah,
check out one of my videos we did. I did on 22 enterprise stocks, and Snow is one of them. You can definitely
oh,
check.
okay, cool. So I'll go back and watch that one. But yeah, the 200 moving average is kind of coming in just below it. The one you brought up, I think, is different. But
This is the 150, yeah. So we get the
yeah.
200 below and then 150 just above. All right. Looks like this one is. I'm guessing the 200 probably also came in line with these lows in October.
Yeah.
So maybe the 200 moving average is a better. I don't have it here. I could add it, I suppose, but yeah, real quick point on moving averages. I know some people say, "Oh yeah, I like the 30, or the 20, or the 150 day, or the 200 day." It's like, for me, I definitely understand that. Like I pick and choose, but I don't necessarily like stick hard and fast to it. Like this doesn't seem to be respecting the 150-day moving average, so I'm not going to trade off the 150-day for this particular ticker, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is if the 200 is worth noting, then you should take a look, right?
Yeah, that's a good point on moving averages, definitely, because you'll see with some stocks that they respect really different moving averages, and it's really quite strange. I guess it's just a habitual kind of price action, isn't it?
Yeah, some are just a little too volatile to respect anything. So, but yes, I like the higher low here, and I'm looking at 197 really is the key level to try to get back above 198. So I'm agreeing with you too, Kay. Long-term position, great place to add. All right, what do we think's next? I got Meta. Should we look at Meta?
Let's do Meta. We haven't done Meta in like forever.
Yeah, so let me add in. So you can see from recent earnings, big gap up, and I dropped an anchored volume weighted, another anchored VWAP here. And look at it's holding it pretty nicely. Holding the 20-day as well. That's pretty bullish.
It never filled that gap.
You think it's going to fill it, or what do you get? You have any,
never filled that gap unless we see a correction in the market. I don't see it's going to fill that gap.
right? Like that's at 450 is the top of it, all the way down to 400. Like that is one heck of a gap.
It's about 20%, isn't it? Just under, maybe 18%.
So
But, Nate, if you actually scroll all the way back to the 22, January 22, you see that gap. It was eventually filled around the 23 after almost an year and a half later.
this big gap down here.
Yeah, exactly. And then it got filled up almost a year and a half later.
So that's what happens, right? Sometimes you get. So actually, I don't think I'm going back far enough.
Yeah, January, I think,
We have
22.
to go back to January of 22. That when we
There we go. There we go.
from
yeah, wow.
327 to 249, you see that pattern. It took almost a year and a half for it to go back up.
Yeah, that's something. Man, I gotta tell you guys, I love TrendSpider. See how quickly it just tags to the candles? Such good stuff. Yeah, that took all the way until July of 23. That is quite the round trip. So that's interesting. I wonder if we'll just get a nice big continuation higher, and then this gap will loom. We'll have to see. But these gaps down below, I mean, this one didn't get filled. This one didn't get filled, right? We've got some gaps from 23 that we just ignored and just kept powering higher.
Yep.
So that's interesting to note. Yeah, Meta looks really strong, I guess, just to get back to the more recent time frame. And sorry, I'm all over the place here. But you can see we had a nice uptrend, and then it extended off of that. It drew the extended trend lines, and now we've just completely taken off. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this was due to announcing the dividend. Is that right?
Yeah.
I think it's a big dividend announcement.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Meta continues to impress and come up with new, news that's on the positive upside for investors. So I don't see anything to be worried about. I would just be looking for a higher high to be made, and keep an eye on this. Maybe anchor VWAP if you can. Otherwise, the next thing coming up here is the 50-day moving average, and I would not want to drop below that. It looks like that should provide pretty strong support. If we break it, we might end up filling that gap back down to 400. That's quite the drop. So just keep that in mind. All right, let's keep it going. Apple's on the list. I've got Carvana as well, but Apple seems to tie into Meta. And so tough. This is tough. I mean, you guys see this rejection here at 177.50 that I highlighted that price level. Yeah, I mean, Apple's tough, and if anything, I'd be looking to fade it. But what do you guys think? Are we looking for anything in Apple in particular here?
No, I think nothing is going to happen in Apple for a while. I think maybe the conference in June, when they have the developer conference, or I don't know when it happens, in April, May, June, whichever time they have it. I think the next announcement probably would be the AI in Mac. I think the market is waiting for Apple's announcement on what they're going to do with the AI part.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the big one that's going to happen this year.
That makes sense. And Apple usually waits until they have their stuff in order before they announce, right? They're not like going to come out and announce a bunch of stuff and then backpedal, right? They're going to wait till everything's good to go and then power forward. I did note this level here. This is the weekly candles I zoomed in on. And look, it used to be resistance, right? Then we broke above. Didn't really, I mean, you just oscillated around this 177.50 level. But now after we've broken back below, it rejected pretty hard last week off of it. So we might see, continued lower, but look for this trend line to hold, and I'll get back to the daily candles. It still has a little bit of ways to drop to this volume shelf at 150 though. So, I mean, could see more downside. We'll see what happens, or maybe we see this level here around 166 hold up, and between 166, 170. And like you said, wait for more good news coming from Apple, who seems to deliver. All right. Keep this thing rolling. Coca-Cola KO was asked about, and it is trending higher highs, higher lows. Kay, do you trade Coke KO?
Yeah, I do. I use that as a dividend strategy. On the fib level, we do have a resistance where it at 60.74, which got rejected 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, 9 times. Sorry. If you draw the 3-point fib from, you will see the 60.74 as the resistance level.
Were you drawing it from this high to a low, or where did you start the fib?
I started from the December low, went to the high of the January end high, and went to the low of this February 16th. So it changed a little bit. 60.89. That's the one. Yes.
Yeah, right here.
Yep.
Gotcha. All right, there we go. Fib levels.
So you will see that 60.79, 60.89, that's the level that got rejected multiple times.
Oh, okay. I must have grabbed a slightly different fibs, but let me see if I can adjust it and get it right. There it is. Yeah, I think that's about right. So, yeah, I mean, regardless, you can see these rejections here right around 61, we'll call it, just a kind of nice rough number. So we want to get back above there. But this volume shelf that's forming here, let me remove this, getting a little bit cluttered. But this volume shelf right at 60 is notable. I think we need to stay above 60 for Coca-Cola. If it does, it'll stay above like the upper half of this recent oscillation and continue to power higher. If it breaks below this volume shelf, I'd be a little bit worried, but so shows like we've got some good support here all the way down to 58.75. So Coca-Cola's looking strong, honestly. All right, what else? We have Carvana. Should we look at Carvana?
Let's do it.
Do
you trade this one, Sean? Carvana?
No, I haven't. Never, actually. I've heard it being obviously mentioned on Twitter, etc., but I've never actually gone into it personally. And judging by the chart here, I probably still wouldn't. Maybe a little bit of a breakout if it did retrace back down to 83, but just by looking at it, it moves pretty quickly, pretty fast on short time frames. So it's a bit of a beast.
So if you guys hadn't caught him this past week, maybe we start hearing Sean a little bit more on spaces throughout the week. And Sean, if you're on with Mikey, he trades this, and Mikey's crazy. He trades a lot of tickers. He's awesome, and but he does take the high risk, high reward trades, and that's why Carvana's squarely on his list. So CVNA is a ticker. Just been an amazing trade. If you started trading this back in November, like some people have, you have this big downswing, but you're rewarded if you're patient and you continue to trade the upside in a big way. It's gone from the lows around 25 to where it's at now, which is, trying to get up towards 90.
That's mad. Absolutely mad.
Yeah, that's quite the move in just a few months. This is the trader's dream in some respects, but you have to have the ability to buy and hold these short-term trades. And it's not easy to do given these swings. So just keep that in mind if you're looking to trade Carvana. I think 87.05. That's the next level we need to break above and hold, and then we'd be targeting 92.50 next, and then 101 after that, 101.37 per the fibs. So Kay, the options action on this is like crazy. The premiums are out there, but these are not premiums I would be selling. Right?
No. This is not the stock you would want to own, right? For $85 strike price, you're getting $630 in premium. That's the premium you get in Tesla for $150, $160 strike level.
Right. So there you go. That tells you a lot with respect to how juiced these premiums are. Yeah. Now, what were you going to say? I'm sorry. Anything else?
No. That's it.
Now, here's the thing. Highly shorted, right? And so the squeeze has been on. Look at this, right? This is the weekly. Carvana was all the way up near 375 before this crazy plummet, right? And I remember in early 23 actually hearing on podcasts people talking about shorting Carvana. It's going to zero. It was a model that failed, and it still may fail. I don't know anything, to say enough about business model, but look at this move since. It's been incredible. Or you just stocks and businesses don't always correlate and move in the same way. And this looks like traders have stepped in and taken over. That's just my 2 cents.
And so, I will say this, right? If you stay long enough, either you'll be wrong or you'll get right. Right? So at $3.25, if you bought Carvana at that level, imagine the profit you are sitting on if you didn't sell it out yet.
Yeah. And the question, I see is, has Carvana ever made money? I don't think they've been profitable. I don't know, but I don't think so, is my initial guess. Kay, maybe you could take a look at that. But
I'm looking at it 1 second.
Yeah. It's one of those, if you have
making losses,
courage.
Right?
What's that?
It's making losses right now. It hasn't.
Yeah. Just a loss leader, right? So it's one of those names where you really need to know what you're doing and you need high risk, high reward. What you put into trades here, you should expect to go to zero or, play out nicely for you. But right now we did a little bit of consolidation for Carvana, and it looks like it's trying to break out again. So I would want to see it get above this 87 level and stick the landing before it's going to push to 100. High risk, high reward, but some people, that is exactly what they live for. So, let's take a look at these things. I got for FSLR up next. You guys want to take a look at that?
Let's do it.
Wasn't that on your ear, Sean, that you were tracking FSLR, the clean energy?
Yes, it's part of the clean energy ETF, which was my pick of the year back in December. It's not going too badly, really. You can see obviously a bit of sideways action, but also higher highs, higher lows. Higher lows at least. So I think if you can get through that, I mean, you've got the level drawn there actually quite nicely, maybe slightly higher in my opinion. But at 162, let's say level, if we can get through that, that would then break the all the moving averages as well, and the volume profile, and maybe a move higher to kind of 180-ish first of all, and then obviously making a move higher after that. But it's all dependent, obviously, on kind of interest rates in terms of these kind of stocks, Tesla and Phase, interest rate sensitive stocks. So yeah, it's kind of news dependent really at the moment, isn't it? But the company seems to still be moving in the right direction, albeit the revenues obviously have depleted. But yeah, I like the stock for the long term. That's for sure. That's why I've invested in it, of course. But yeah, on a trading basis, I'll probably stay away from it for now, unless it breaks the trend on the lower side. That will probably take my attention. But for the upper side, there's just too much in the way for me. Until it gets above that, that's it for me.
Nice. Okay, what would you say about for solar?
I have no comments on solar, man. I stay away from clean energy.
Right.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, these are things. There are things you don't have to trade everything. So
Yeah, I like energy. I don't like clean energy.
careful, kid, careful. So I highlighted ways back in 2022 and 23 this resistance level, and then we had a nice bounce off of it, and I just left it there and here we are, and it's broken down a bit. You can tell I track it a little bit. I was looking for a bigger breakout after this descending triangle here, but didn't get it, and now it's moving sideways like you said, Sean. So yeah, 162, I like it nice and clean. Get above 162, and now we're talking. Then we'd be talking, but until then, it's kind of tough. I will say I like this trend line of we're tightening up, right? No matter where you draw it from, we are tightening up, right? So if you see this kind of pattern where the high is holding, but the lows are getting higher and higher and higher, you'll eventually find a breaking point, and usually when you do, you get a pretty significant move afterwards, relatively speaking. So that's what I'd be looking out for here is if we can get a clean break above 162 and hold, maybe it continues higher and finally gets moving. But if it breaks this lower trend line, I'm not saying it's going to drop very far, but I would keep in mind that 129 level down here.
Is this like do they sell like solar panels and stuff? I haven't researched this company. Do they sell solar panels?
Oh,
Yeah.
Is that right?
I'm pretty sure. The Enphase does the microinverters, and I think First Solar does the panels. Pretty sure. I could be wrong, but
the reason I always hesitate is there is a company that has nothing to do with solar, and it's a tech company, and it's always confused in the solar space. But yeah, you got this one right, Sean. And I'm thinking of something else. All right. Let's see. What else do we got, guys?
AVGO.
AVGO. All right. Let's wrap it up with AVGO. I like it. Then we'll get back to some hoops action. Again, appreciate everybody tuning in. If you haven't already, make sure you're following InvestK and at Sean Clark on Twitter or on X, excuse me. And then also make sure you're subscribing to the Trading Triangle. We're going to get there. We're going to get to 1,000 followers. That's our next goal. And these live streams on Sunday, we appreciate your support over the 2,000 mark. On our way to 3,000 again this week, you guys. I love it. All right. So Broadcom, AVGO, the worst ticker in the world. Not because obviously performance is great, but AVGO has nothing to do with Broadcom. It drives me nuts. It has something to do. Do you guys know the story with AVGO?
No, what's up?
There's a story with the ticker. I won't bore you with it right now, but there's a reason that's the ticker, and I can't remember what it is. I think it's technical related, but it bothers me that it's not like BCOM or something more obvious. Anyways, I digress. What are you guys' thoughts on this chart as I start annotating a little bit here?
I mean, if you look from the last October, it is making higher highs and higher lows. Sorry, higher highs. Yes. And right now it's in the middle of the trend channel. And I believe the 20-day SMA is a nice little bounce or a support level for this stock, is from what I'm seeing. And most recently they had this gap up, so maybe they will fill that gap in the next couple trading days for short term. That could be an opportunity, but I would watch this trend carefully. Maybe for long term, add it at the bottom of the trend channel and then play it for the upside.
It's been an absolute ripper. I mean, just raging to the upside. This trend that I tried to draw out here for you, this channel that we're in, look at this. Like it shook below,
Yeah,
tested the 50-day, and immediately got back above, right? When I
exactly.
see this kind of shakeout, usually we at least drift to the top of the channel and retest that. So that's what I'd be looking for. Just like you're saying, Kay, just keep this channel going. Sean, do you see anything else from a technical perspective here?
For me, yeah, it's kind of like a bit of a breakout trade, to be honest. At that 1400 level, we can see a bit of a big rejection off of it on Thursday, which says to me that could be a bit more of a stronger support if it does get above that. So if it comes back down, use that as support. That to me is a bit stronger, especially with all the kind of candles around that area. So that kind of 1400 level is probably where I'm going to be watching. But in terms of anything else, I mean, Kay, you mentioned obviously coming back down to the 20 moving average / filling that gap. I think that's a wise move as well. But for me, that arrow you've just drawn there, Nate, is what I'll be looking at.
Gotcha. All right. Good stuff.
So we have somebody, G Trade said Broadcom was acquired by AVAGO in 2016.
Ah, that's what it was. Thank you for the history lesson. I knew it was something that, I actually thought it was something different that had to do with like technical stuff, but no, thank you for the history lesson, G-Trade, dropping that out there. So there you go. That's why I am eternally frustrated by the Broadcom ticker because I can never remember AVG. I don't know why. But anyways, all right, guys, this is great. I think we got through all the requested tickers. Appreciate, again, everybody tuning in. And let's see. What is this? No, I think we got everything. So we will be back in 2 weeks, you guys. We're going to take the holiday week off. Let me go ahead and switch this out. We can chat it up here to close things out. But yeah, it's been another great week. I don't know about you guys, but as far as trading for more upside, that's where my head is. Like I can't go short until the charts just reverse and tell me otherwise, even though like every day it's nagging in the back of my head, right? Like we should be seeing a correction or consolidation any day now. But I'm not trying to guess exactly when that is. So I'll keep trading, looking for buying the dip opportunities and, looking for more upside. So what about you, Sean? Feeling the same way?
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I think obviously we've got 4-day trading this week. So the Friday, I think we have
That's
off.
right.
So just use it wisely. Obviously spend it with family. You go through trades if you're not with family, etc. But yeah, other than that, just kind of trade safe and enjoy it. Be confident within your trading and move forward.
Short week, Kay. How you feeling?
I have the same sentiment as you guys, right? I guess a trigger point. Like it's just ready to wait and hope for the pullback. But I guess no need to guess those things. I guess if you're trading, play it by the day, play it by how the trend shows us, and that's pretty much it, I guess.
Right? Don't fight the trend, you guys. We bring these charts forward because that's what we look at. We trade our plans and we stick to it. So we'll keep doing that. We'll keep bringing these thoughts forward on our timeline. So even though we're taking next weekend off, we'll keep posting on the channel. Again, the Trading Triangle on YouTube and on our channels on X. Thanks again for tuning in this week. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks. We'll see you then. Until then, have a great time trading. Thanks, guys.